USPAP 7-hour update course 2022 through 2023, Chapter 2, Fair Housing Update, Critical New Information for Appraisers. Page 7, Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act, also known as Title 8 of the 1968 Civil Rights Act, subsequently amended in 1988 by the Fair Housing Amendments Act, addresses housing discrimination and covers most types of housing. The following is a quote from a HUD webpage. The Fair Housing Act protects people from discrimination when they are renting or buying a home, getting a mortgage, seeking housing assistance, or engaging in other housing-related activities. And further, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, familial status, and disability. HUD has stated that the command of the law is that these 7 bases for distinguishing among home seekers, race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin must be irrelevant to a housing decision. End of page. It says you missed a question in the pre-course assessment that related to the content on this page. Please study this information on this page carefully so you will be better able to answer questions about this material on upcoming quizzes. An appraiser values a 3-unit residential property for a mortgage lender. After the lender reviews the appraisal report, the lender accuses the appraiser of violating a local fair housing law. The appraiser replies that there are so many state and local laws out there, and they cannot be expected to know every single one of them. Who is correct in this situation? Page 8. More on the Fair Housing Act. While the law has multiple sections that address a wide range of activities related to housing, there is only one specific section of the FHA CT that directly references appraisals or appraising. SEC 805-42 USC 3605. Discrimination in residential real estate related transactions. A. In general, it shall be unlawful for any person or other entity whose business includes engaging in residential real estate related transactions to discriminate against any person in making available such a transaction or in the terms or conditions of such a transaction because of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. B. Definition. As used in this section, the term residential real estate related transaction means any of the following. Number one, the making or purchasing of loans or providing other financial assistance, dwelling or Number one, the making or purchasing of loans or providing other financial assistance. A, for purchasing, constructing, improving, repairing, or maintaining a dwelling. Or B, secured by residential real estate. Number two, the selling, brokering, or appraising of residential real property. C, appraisal exemption. Nothing in this title prohibits a person engaged in the business of furnishing appraisals of real property to take into consideration factors other than race, color, religion, national origin, sex, handicap, or familial status. Section 3605 of the Fair Housing Act specifically mentions appraising or appraisals, and the Department of Justice on February 14th, 2022, filed a statement of interest regarding its interpretation of the applicability of the FHACT to appraise activities, stating, by its plain terms, the Act directly prohibits discrimination by any person or other entity engaged in the appraisal of residential real property. Part of an appraiser's obligation for competency under the competency rule is to be aware of and comply with laws and regulations that apply to the appraiser or to the assignment, including the Fair Housing Act and other fair housing laws. Something about a statement of interest is a legal document that the Department of Justice may file to express the position of the government when litigation between private parties implicates the interests of the government. See 28 U.S. Code 517, end of page. Page 9, FHACT and appraisers. The Department of Justice concluded in its statement of interest that all of the FHACT's provisions apply to appraisers. The Act's provisions include 3604, 3605, and 3617 all apply to appraisals and appraisers. Section 804, 42 USC 3604, discrimination in sale or rental of housing and other prohibited practices, as made applicable by Section 803 of this title and except as exempted by Sections 803B and 807 of this title. It shall be unlawful: A, to refuse to sell or rent after the making of a bona fide offer, or to refuse to negotiate for the sale or rental of, or otherwise make unavailable or deny a dwelling to any person because of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, or national origin. Number 1, B, to discriminate against any person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling, or in the provision of services or facilities in connection therewith, because of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, or national origin. C, to make, print, or publish, or cause to be made, printed, or published any notice, statement, or advertisement with respect to the sale or rental of a dwelling that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, or an intention to make any such preference, limitation, or discrimination. D, to represent to any person because of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, that any dwelling is not available for inspection, sale, or rental when such dwelling is in fact so available. E, for profit, to induce or attempt to induce any person to sell or rent any dwelling by representations regarding the entry or prospective entry into the neighborhood of a person or persons of a particular race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin. F, number 1, to discriminate in the sale or rental, or to otherwise make unavailable or deny a dwelling to any buyer or renter because of a handicap of, number 1, A, the buyer or renter, B, a person residing in or intending to reside in that dwelling after it is so sold, rented, or made available, or C, any person associated with that buyer or renter. Number 2, to discriminate against any person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling, or in the provision of services or facilities in connection with such dwelling because of a handicap of number one, A, that person, or B, a person residing in or intending to reside in that dwelling after it is so sold, rented, or made available, or C, any person associated with that person. Appraisers should particularly be aware of 3604A, which makes it unlawful to make unavailable or deny a dwelling to any person because of a protected characteristic, and 3604C, which prohibits any notice, statement, or advertisement with respect to the sale or rental of a dwelling that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination based, which means protected characteristics, or an intention to make any such preference, limitation, or discrimination. Additional information about the Fair Housing Act may be found in Appendix C of the downloadable document for this chapter. The competency rule in USPAP has requirements as to when an appraiser must be aware of and comply with applicable laws and regulations. Not all appraisers and not all assignments are subject to every law. However, fair housing laws related to appraisals apply in many circumstances. End of page.